Hi everyone, welcome you back on History EduLearn. Today we will be studying 10th standard history. This is the last lesson from our textbook Goa's Freedom Struggle. What have we studied? The first lesson, early trade activities. In this lesson we saw how European traders, after falling of Constantinople in the hands of Ottoman Turks, the main land route from Asia to Europe was blocked and European felt need to find out new sea route, and in that discover new sea route towards India. Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese sailor and explorer, discovered sea route to India. In the year 1498, on 17th May, he reached Kakodkar in India, and later on he collected lot of trade commodities, and those were sold in European markets, in which he got 60 times profit. This realized the Europeans, especially the Portuguese king, that they should conduct more exploration, and that's why they sent Alfonso de Albuquerque to conquer Goa. The second lesson we studied about the age of industrialization, post-industrialization age, American War of Independence. This is all about the international history. Then we learn about the national history, emergence of nationalism. And in this lesson, we studied about how Indians fought against the repressive British rule. Now, let us come back to the last lesson. Same time, let us see how will be the marks distribution. This is the tentative marks distribution. Lesson number 1, 2, 3, that is early trade activities, industrial age and the post-industrialization. This is in question number 1, that is for 10 marks. American War of Independence, lesson number 4 for 4 marks. This is included in question number 2. And emergence of nationalism and Goa's freedom struggle, 6 plus 6, 12 marks, and which is included in question number 3, 2 and 3. And political science carries 10 marks. So this is what your marks distribution for Goa board examination. Now let us come back to Goa's freedom struggle. What we are going to study in this lesson: early political organizations, impact of Indian freedom struggle, movement of 1946, rise of other organizations, Satyagraha of 1954 and 55, and Operation Vijay. So these are the 8 subtopics we will be covering in this lesson. In the first phase, let us study early political organizations and impact of Indian freedom struggle on Goa. Look at the map of Goa. Goa is the smallest state of Indian Union. We got statehood on 30th May 1987. Earlier, we were the Union Territory along with Daman and Diu. Now, Goa is near to the Maharashtra and Karnataka, and if you find the location of Daman and Diu, it is in Gujarat. So Portuguese, who were ruling over Goa, who had a colony in Goa, they also had a colony in Daman and Diu. Goa got liberation on 19 December 1961. Goa was under Portuguese regime for nearly 451 years. This is the oldest colony of any European country in India. When Europeans understood about the wealth hidden in India, and there is a lot of opportunity for them to do the trade in India, that time they sent Alfonso de Albuquerque as a governor to attack and conquer Goa. Accordingly, in the year 1510, Alfonso de Albuquerque conquered Goa from Adil Shahs of Bijapur. Before the coming of Portuguese, Adil Shah of Bijapur had a rule in Goa. The seats of Diwar, Chodan, Zuve and Gomavella was captured in the beginning. Later on, they had control the old conquest, that is Tiswadi, Bardesh and Salsette, and after few hundred years, they also got mastery over the other parts of like Pedne, Bardesh, Sattari, Kankon, Sangay, Kepe, Murgaon and rest talukas of Goa, which is known as New Conquest. Thus, the whole of Goa was under their possession. Goans always struggle for freedom. There was a discontent broke out in the minds of Goans, and several early revolts had taken place. The revolts such as Kunkolim revolt of 1583, Pinto revolt of 1787, Rane's revolt of 1852 to 1912, Banastari revolt, and so many. If you think of Rane's revolt, this was that was a struggle between the Ranes of Sattari and the Portuguese, which almost continued for 60 years. It was a 60 years prolonged fight against the colony. Vishwajit Rane, who is the present health minister of Goa, and his father Pratap Singh Rane, who was a former chief minister of Goa, they are the descendant, successor of same Rane family. So this Rane family, Dipaji Rane, is said to be the one of the brave, valiant leader of this Rane revolt. He gave a valiant fight against Portuguese and kept Sattari free from Dikus or from the Portuguese invasion. Second revolt that had taken place before this was 1787's Pinto revolt. Here one interesting thing we must remember, we also studied it in first lesson in the early trade activities, what were the objectives of in spreading their colonies over the world. The 3G not here meaning the 3 generations of mobile computer, but here 3G means God, glory and gold. Their aim, God. First, God in the sense, spread the religion, Christianity, wherever they go, one. Glory means conquer the more and more places and be the master of those places. And third, gold, that means through the trade, earn more and more wealth to their country. So, these were the 3G of Portuguese administration. So, if you think of the first, that is God, that is the spread of Christianity. When Portuguese came to Goa, they converted the original Hindus and Muslims of Goa into Christianity. And even some of the Goan who were converted to Christianity, they also became priests. But Goan priests were always treated inferior by the white minority. There was a racial discrimination in Goa, and that's why they were denied the promotion in church. This was the reason made Goan priests to revolt against the foreign racial discrimination. And that led to the Pinto's revolt. If you look at the figures of Pinto revolt, it had taken place in 1787, which had taken much even before the French Revolution of 1789. Before that was the Kunkolim revolt. Kunkolim is a place in Salsette Taluka, and here in 1583 the revolt had broken. This is said to be the oldest revolt against colonial rule, not only in Goa, not only in India, but in the world. What had happened? The 5 priests who came with the policy of conversion and wanted to erect a church at Kunkolim, it was against the will of the local Kshatriya or the warriors class. There is a speciality of Kunkolim people. When Alfonso de Albuquerque first came to Goa, he wrote somewhere in his documents that he found some of the guns which were equivalent to that of the guns which are manufactured in Germany. So, the art of preparing guns was known to the Kunkolim people, because these Kunkolim people were affiliated with Marathas, Bijapurs, Vijayanagar and other empires. And they were knowing how to manufacture the guns, and they were quite advanced as per the evidences of Alfonso de Albuquerque. Here, after local killed the priest, they invited envy of Portuguese military, and Portuguese brutally suppressed this revolt. So, these were some of the revolts that had taken place in Goa. All these were suppressed and were unsuccessful because they were localized in nature and lost the active and broad support, and that's why they all were unsuccessful. Now let's see Salazar's dictatorship. Salazar, who was the dictator of Portugal and remained in power for almost 36 years. He had a direct control over Goan colony, and during his tenure, Goa faced a period of repression or period of oppression. He passed ecto-colonial law in Goa, Acto means act, colonial is a colony. When Portuguese had a colony on Goa, they had their act or the law called Acto colonial. What is this Acto colonial law? As per this law, they abolished civil liberties. What are civil liberties? Today, if you think of it today, we have fundamental rights. What are those fundamental rights? What are our civil liberties? That we have right to freedom, right to thought and expression, right to movement, and so many. If they are violated, we can appeal in the court. So, but this choice was not there, left with this Acto colonial law. This Acto colonial abolished the civil liberties, meaning no one can come freely on road. They had no right to mobilize in a group. They had no right of thought and expression. So, this was what the civil liberties were abolished or banned. Secondly, there was a censorship on press and the newspapers coming from outside. What is censorship? Today also there is a censor board in India. What this censorship does? Any newspaper, any social media, any films, movies, if the content from this, if it violates the sentiments of the common masses, then this is the body, this is the board which keeps a check, monitors. This is what happening in the democratic country. But Goa, which was ruled by the European colony Portuguese, and Goa was undemocratic. Since there was a censorship, censorship means to limit the information. Whatever that was published through the newspaper, that used to go through the scanner, a team of censor board, and it was scanned. And what should be published and what should not be published was told by the censor board. So that is called censorship. So, besides this censorship on press and newspaper, the ban on political parties. No political party was allowed to form, and only political party that was functioning in Goa was União Nacional. União Nacional, this is the Portuguese word, nacional. So, União Nacional, which was the only political party functioning, which had a support of Portuguese government. Dr. Antonio Oliveira Salazar, he left no stone unturned to control the activities in Goa. That's why everyone in Goa was living under the fear and terror of Salazar. His rule led to the establishment of number of political organizations. If someone suppresses you for a long time, but how long you will keep quiet? Since people of Goa, they rose in revolt against the Portuguese and they decided to form their organization. Unity is a strength that was realized by Goans, and they started mobilizing themselves through the organization. So let's see the early political organizations of Goa. Portuguese repressive rule forced Goans to unite under the several political organizations. One such organization was Goa Congress Committee. This was founded by T.B.Cunha, Dr. Tristão Bragança Cunha. Its main objective was to free Goa from the clutches of British rule and integrate it with Mother India. His nieces, Bertha de Menezes Bragança and Beatriz de Menezes Bragança, joined the movement. This was the first political organization in Goa united against the colonial rule and fought for their civil liberties. It took part in civil disobedience movement in the year 1930. This movement, which was started by Mahatma Gandhi nationwide, and T.B.Cunha and other leaders of GCC joined the movement, and this created a sense of nationalism, feeling of nationalism amongst the members of GCC. Thus, T.B.Cunha is known as father of Goa's freedom struggle. Another organization was Gomantak Praja Mandal. Gomantak is the early name of Goa. Praja meaning people, and Mandal association, an association of all Goans. This was founded in Mumbai by Julian Menezes, Luis Mendes, Joaquim Dias, Zotico Souza. Its ideology was based on the principles of Luis de Menezes Bragança. It published a newspaper called Gomantak, which was published in bilingual English as well as in Romi Konkani. This created awareness among the masses about the need of Goa to be free from Portuguese rule. The third organization is Gomantakiya Tarun Sangha. This was founded at Margaon by famous freedom fighter comrade Shyamrao Madkaikar. He was inspired by Goa Congress Committee and aimed to have open discussions on social and political issues. It's more important to have social and political issues discussions publicly. Even if you think today there are so many news channels or the newspapers, they are coming up with debate on several issues. These debates provokes the people to think in a different angle and come to the conclusion. Same way, during the Portuguese rule, Shyamrao Madkaikar to believe in open discussions on social and political issues. For that matter, he organized Swayam Sevak Dal, opened library, and published Marathi periodical called Uttejan. Why Swayam Sevak Dal was organized? Swayam means self, Sevak means volunteer, and Dal means an organization. Organization of the volunteers. So that was initiated so that many people will come voluntary in front and join the Goa's freedom movement. So that was what the objective in forming this Swayam Sevak Dal. Second, open library. What's the function of library? Library are meant for reading. And whenever people used to come closer, at that time they used to had discussion, and this library was used to spread the nationalistic ideas and reach the maximum Goans. If you think of emergence of Indian nationalism, in that we studied Lokamanya Tilak, who used the public celebrations of Shiva Jayanti and Sarvajanik Ganeshotsav as the tool to spread nationalistic ideas. Same way, Shyamrao Madkaikar used library as a tool to spread his ideas to free Goa. Third, he published a Marathi periodical called Uttejan. Uttejan meaning inspiration or motivation. This periodical reached to the maximum houses wherein people can read what exactly Shyamrao Madkaikar, his organization intend to achieve. Its leaders, P.P. Shirodkar and Suryakant Naik, fearlessly celebrated Independence Day at Karmali. Karmali is a place in Tiswadi. Presently, we have a Karmali railway station. Here, both these fearless freedom fighters, P.P. Shirodkar and Suryakant Naik, celebrated India's Independence Day by giving slogan Vande Mataram. If we celebrate India's independence today and shout the slogans Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai, Jai Hind, then it is a thing of pride, our nationalistic feeling towards our country. But during that time, Portuguese had colonial act in Goa, and because of that, our civil liberties were curtailed and we had no right to act as per our wish. Freedom fighter with guts, they fearlessly celebrated India's Independence Day at Karmali and shouted slogan Vande Mataram. Next organization is Goa Seva Sangha. This was organized in the year 1945 by Purushottam Kakodkar. Organization was influenced by Gandhian philosophy, and we know what are the ideologies of Gandhi: truth, non-violence, Swadeshi and Satyagraha. Satyagraha, Satya means truth and Agraha means insist, to insist upon truth, that is self-governed. Goa is a state of Goans, and Goans have right to rule the Goa. The foreigners, Portuguese, who were ruling Goa did not have any right over Goa. So Goa is of Goans and it should be ruled by Goans. So this was what the Agraha or the insist, that's why they followed the principle of Satyagraha. Non-violently they were carrying out whole movement and they initiated Swadeshi, indigenous goods. They boycotted foreign goods and adopted indigenous. What else that was made in Goa, that was adopted. They also advocated spinning of cloth on charkha. As Gandhi, who followed the spinning of cloth on charkha, same principle was advocated by Purushottam Kakodkar and his followers in Goa. Vinayak Mayekar and Nilkant Karakurkar were active members of this organization. Vinayak Mayekar, who wrote in his autobiography माझा Kala Jivanvas about the kind of hardship that he faced in the jail imprisonment when he was deported to Angola. Angola is a place in Africa. So it was a colony of Portuguese, and he was sent far away from Goa. So much fear they had about Vinayak Mayekar in the minds of Portuguese. Besides this, Goa Congress Committee, Goa Seva Sangha, Gomantiya Tarun Sangha, Gomantak Prajamandal, there were more organizations such as Goa Youth League, Vidyarthi Congress, Rashtra Seva Dal. They were functioning and working for the liberation of Goa. They demanded Portuguese should leave Goa immediately. Indian national movement got intensified from the period of 1940 to 1947. Same time, many Goans who were residing in Bombay actively participated in this national movement, and they got the proper direction to fight against Goa's freedom struggle. Some of the Goan leaders like Peter Alvarez, Vishwanath Lavande took participation in Quit India movement of 1942, Bharat Chodo Andolan, launched by Mahatma Gandhi. This was massive national movement and call given by Gandhiji to do or die and leave India immediately. Many Goans were inspired from this movement and they continued their fight in Goa. A manifesto was drafted by some of the Goans staying in Bombay demanding civil liberties for Goans in Goa. This manifesto was sent to Portugal government, but unfortunately it did not yield any positive response.
Let's evaluate the lesson. You can expect table questions, match the pair questions, one sentence and two sentence, and even give reason on this lesson. So here are some questions. They are in the fill in the blank form, but you can expect them in table or the match the column. 1. Goa came under Portuguese rule in 1510. In 1583, historic revolt against the Portuguese rule took place at Kunkolim. T.B.Cunha established first political organization called GCC, Goa Congress Committee. Goa faced a period of repression during the dictatorial rule of Dr. Salazar. The act abolished civil liberties of Goans was ecto-colonial. The only political party was not censored was União Nacional. The Portuguese governor Alfonso de Albuquerque conquered Goa from Adil Shah of Bijapur. The newspaper published by Gomantak Prajamandal in English and Romi Konkani was Gomantak. Here are some match the pairs. Column A is having leaders and column B associated with the organization. I will just read the first column. You find out the answers. Look at the answers in the B column. Dr. T.B.Cunha, it is 1C. So just see which is the answer. Second, Dr. Luliao Menezes, answer is D. Please look. 3 is Shyamrao Madkaikar, answer is A. 4, Purushottam Kakodkar, and answer is B. Here are one sentence questions. Mention any two early revolts organized by Goans against Portuguese rule. Name any two Goan freedom fighters who had actively participated in Quit India movement. Which Goan freedom fighter is rightly regarded as father of Goa's freedom movement? Name is of T.B.Cunha who actively joined Goan freedom struggle. Name the Marathi periodical published by Gomantakiya Tarun Sangha. Which Goan freedom fighters celebrated India's Independence Day at Karmali fearlessly shouting slogan Vande Mataram? Which early political organizations advocated spinning of cloth on charkha? Name any two Goan political organizations carried out task of fanning the flame of nationalism among Goan. And here are your answers. Thank you very much and see you soon in the second part of Goa's freedom struggle.